Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto and Yugito come with child, part 1, subscribe if you enjoy the video, and also support Giovanni-sama for his fantastic skill, link in description, so let's begin the story. It has been 2 years, 3 months, 22 days, 4 hours, and 33 minutes since the day Naruto and Jiraiya made their departure from Konohagakure. It all started with a blind promise to a pink-haired girl, an undeniable sense of justice to protect his best friend from the clutches of an Irohibi, and a never-ending quest to prove his worth to everyone who has ever doubted him. The day he left the village, all these things bore heavy on his heart and heavy on his mind. But now things have changed for the blind. He no longer was the blonde loudmouth, dim-witted, ramen-loving genin he once was. Training with Jiraiya had opened up his eyes to the real world. The real world of the shinobi. Growing up, he was always told by his peers about the cold facts of the shinobi world, but he had never really experienced them firsthand. A year deep in training with Jiraiya, the legend decided that it was about time for Naruto to experience his first real mission. Between the releases of his ever-popular Iro book series, he would take on various assignments to help keep the food on the table and the women happy in the bars, which was also becoming a rare commodity thanks to his annoying little pupil. Ever since he had decided to bring Naruto along as his apprentice, the blonde baka had been messing up all his elaborate plans to collect information. Naruto once used his Warak no Jutsu to catch his sensei in the act of peeking in a very popular hot spring about 3 months on the trip. Safe to say Jiraiya will always thank Naruto for all of his painful memories of his visit there. The job was a simple one, escorting a traveler from one town to the next. The client was carrying some very rare weapons that could sell for quite a penny to antique collectors overseas. The neighboring city just happened to be a port city with a boat waiting for the client as soon as he got there. Apparently bandits had already attacked this man 3 times already. Luckily for him, he was able to survive those attacks. His stubbornness was the only thing that kept him doing this profession, and probably the only thing that kept him alive those times too. But this time he was playing it differently. He saw how large Jiraiya was and the shiftiness in his eye and just knew he was strong. Little did he know the only reason why Jiraiya was looking like that at the time was because of an all-nighter he had pulled the previous night gathering more research for his book. "Excuse me, sir." "Sir?" The man tapped on Jiraiya's shoulder and nearly leaped out of his shoes when he saw the look Jiraiya gave him. Sorry sir, I didn't mean to disturb you, but I have a request for you. You look like a strong man and all, and I'm pretty sure you are more than enough for the job I'll have for you. I'll pay you well." Jiraiya narrowed his eyes and stared at the man closely before standing up straight and shaking his head. "Sorry, I haven't done any research on men." Suddenly the man's eardrums nearly exploded due to the sound of laughter coming from behind the man. "Knew you were many things, Hiro-senin, but I never pegged you for any." The man got a glimpse at the blonde teenager as he rolled on the floor with laughter. He was holding his stomach like it was about to burst. "Irasai!" Jiraiya yelled as he kicked Naruto in the side, causing him to yell out in pain. In an instant, the blonde was on his feet and in Jiraiya's face. "What was that for?" Sorry for the confusing sir, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted to hire you for an escort job." "Escort job, eh? Where to?" "At Sumi Port. I'm willing to pay you half now and half there upon arrival." And why are you asking me for this job?" "Well, I figured you'd be strong and all due to your size and all." Jiraiya chuckled as he turned around and glanced at Naruto, who had decided that the conversation was too boring for him to follow and went back to his delicious bowl of ramen. That was when the idea hit Jiraiya. It would prove to be perfect training for him and also give him the free time he needed to enjoy himself more. "Well, I'm sorry to say that I can't take you up on your offer, but I know someone who is strong as well and could do just as good of a job as me." Who would that be, sir?" Jiraiya turned around and glanced at Naruto in an obvious manner, causing the stranger to follow his eyes. "Him, sir?" he said using a questioning tone. "Oh, don't worry about anything. He may look like a baka, but he is quite capable of defending you and himself. The guy is practically his own little army ready for anything, ain't that right, Naruto?" Naruto mumbles something as he starts on his 4th bowl of ramen. "The kid can eat, can he?" "You don't know the half of it. This is only his brunch before dinner. By the way, what's your name?" "Ren." "Good to meet you, Ren. I'm Jiraiya and this is Uzamaki Naruto, and he would love to escort you to Itsumi Port." "Eh?" At the time Naruto had decided to come back into the conversation and was more than shocked to hear what they were talking about. "What do you mean, eh?" "It's been decided already, you're escorting him to the next town." "Nani? What about you, Hiro-senin?" "Me? I'm staying here, of course. Thanks to a certain annoying blunderhead, I'm more than behind on my next book and this would give me ample time to catch up. But don't worry boy, he did say he will pay us well." "Speaking of which, how much are we talking here?" "I was thinking 10,000 now and 10,000 when we get there." Naruto immediately began to add up the number of ramen bowls he could buy for that amount. Fine, I'll be taking the first 10,000 now. Nani? Hey, this is my share of the loot. But I'm doing all of the work. Consider this the type of training that you are also paid for. I'll even let you keep the other half when you get there. Sounds like a plan. Yeah, whatever. Naruto sat back down to finish his last bowl before heading out with Ren to begin his mission. Jiraiya just merely smiled as he watched the two walk off. Finally, I can get some work done. He got up and began to head to his favorite bar, where the ladies were always happy to see him when his pockets were full. The trip was a pretty average trip when it came to length. Ren estimated that it would take them about a full day worth of traveling if they didn't make any unnecessary stops. The two of them didn't even speak a word until about the third hour into the trip, where Naruto began to sigh. So why are we heading to Itsumi? Naruto asked, trying to break the ice between them. I need to transport these all the way to my boss. He sells these to all types of rich folk for a lot of money. Naruto glanced at the large bag that he had tied around his waist. He had been wondering for a while now what it was, and he had his suspicions, but didn't feel like asking about them. Cool, why do you need a bodyguard for this? Well, I've already been attacked by thieves 3 times, and this time the boss finally gave me enough to also hire a bodyguard too. Naruto nearly choked on his own spit. 3 times? Yup, you're lucky to be alive, Aji-san. I would have quit this job after the first one. Please call me Ren, and I would if I could use uzamaki-san. Come on, call me Naruto. He cracked his patented smile that was highly contagious, judging from the fact that everyone who saw it couldn't help but to smile too, and Ren was no exception. How old are you, Naruto-san? Ren asked as he looked up at him. Surprisingly enough, the runt of the Konoha 9 had gone on a huge growing spurt. He now stood over 5'10" with a very strong frame. The type of training Jiraiya had been putting him through easily worked through his baby fat and replaced all of it with iron-hard muscle. 14 years old. Are you sure we will be okay then? I mean, you still are a kid and all. I'm not a kid, I'm a shinobi. Shinobi? Naruto nods as he points up to his Konoha hit with a large grin on his face. It was easy to tell that he had great pride in his village. Yeah, I will become the greatest Hokage in the history of Konoha. Are you that great of a shinobi, Naruto-san? You better believe I am. He cracked that contagious smile again, causing Ren to laugh out loud. Feeling a little bit more confident about his new bodyguard, Ren convinced Naruto to allow them to set up camp for the night. Naruto created a fire using one of the Jiraiya had taught him and cooked up some instant ramen. You really like ramen, huh, Naruto-san? Best food in the world. Want some? No, I'm fine. It wasn't long before the two of them fell asleep. Naruto was actually the first to go, leaving Ren a little worried, but he soon found enough peace for himself to be able to fall asleep soon after. The night was still, not even the crickets were chirping that night. The soothing breeze of the wind made everything feel just that much more comfortable. It was definitely a peaceful night, a little too peaceful. Ren quickly woke up to see the horrifying sight of a kunai pointing directly at his neck. Damn, not again. Suddenly the intruder dropped the kunai as he literally fell on top of Ren. Freaking out and fearing for his life, Ren pushed the man off of him and started to run, but was caught by surprise when he saw not 1, not 2, but 5 Narutos beating the hell out of the other bandits without much trouble at all. Naruto-san, is this what Jiraiya-san meant by him being his own army? Suddenly Ren was met with yet another kunai to the throat. Yeah, that is quite the sight, eh? Never thought that a young Konohanin would cause us this much trouble. The bandit said as he began to twirl the kunai deeper into Ren's skin, drawing blood from his neck. And too bad that he was too much of a greenhorn to not think that we would have more. Actually, I figured the leader would be showing himself pretty soon, so I made it look like I wasn't expecting more. The hooded bandit turned around to see a kunai pointing at his forehead. Not bad at all. I guess I did underestimate you, huh? I might have some fun after all. As soon as he finished his speech, a 7th Naruto appeared from the rock that was sitting next to them and slashed his kunai at the bandit's head. The bandit was just quick enough to dodge the attack, but his hood was swiped off, revealing the long flowing blonde hair of a female. Her long hair was tied into a tail that stretched all the way down her back. Her azure shaded eyes were almost as equally mesmerizing as Naruto's cerulean eyes. The one thing that stuck out the most was her hit that carried the symbol of Kumagakure. Hey girl. Is that a problem? Naruto smirked as he crouched in a defensive stance. Nope, not at all. The blonde kunoichi was the first to make a move as she used her incredible speed to get within striking distance of Naruto quicker than he had originally predicted of her. He was barely able to put up his kunai to fend off her attack. What's wrong, boy? Thought you were tough enough to actually fight me. Don't disappoint me now. Don't worry about that. I was just testing you. Testing me? 4 Naruto suddenly leaped at her with kunai in each hand, attacking her relentlessly. She was forced off of the first one in order to defend herself from the new 4. Her speed was amazing indeed. Naruto could barely keep up with her movements with his own eyes. Seems I'm going to have to take this up a notch, huh? The kunoichi yelled as her body literally burst into blue flames, burning all of the clones that were once attacking her. Is that all you got? Naruto merely smirked as he slowly lifted his left hand and yelled Kai. Releasing the hat he had placed on his body, revealing a katana with a dark blue hilt. Is that katana supposed to scare me? Hell, I would be. He slowly unsheathed the blade from his back and went through several seals with his free hand. The blade began to pulsate an enormous amount of chakra as the wind around them began to pick up. Scared yet? No, but I'm interested. Naruto tightly gripped the hilt of his katana and began to slash in the air. I'm over here, boy. I know. Naruto yelled as the wind began to pick up even more, causing the Kumo kunoichi to become a tad bit worried. Suddenly the slashes Naruto was making became violent waves of wind crashing towards the kunoichi. She was forced to evade quickly as she watched one of the waves slashed right through a tree. She quickly scrambled to her feet but was met with a very excited Naruto as he made yet another swipe at her head. She put up her kunai to guard her life, but she watched the blade sliced right through her kunai and nearly through her head if she hadn't ducked quickly enough. She sent a swift kick to his stomach, knocking him on his back. She quickly leaped up to her feet and smiled down at him. It seems that you still have a long way to go with your swordsmanship. Well, until next time, wait, let me get your name so I can carve it on your gravestone for next time. Naruto glared up at her. It's polite to give your name first before asking for someone else's. Oh, the polite one, huh? Fine, I'm Yugito of Kumagakure. Well, I'm Uzamaki Naruto, the future Rakudame of Konohagakure. Another cage hopeful, eh? Well, until we meet again, Naruto. Yugito said as she shushed Ned off in a cloud of smoke. Naruto-san. You alright, Ren? Yeah, I'm fine. Who were they? Looks like the guys who were attacking you were from Kumo. Kumo? Yeah, a village like mine, born to breed shinobi. Now you are going to have to tell me what it is you are carrying. What do you mean by that, Naruto-san? These are just antique weapons, relics, they should be of no use to anyone anymore. Someone high up thinks otherwise since they have Kumo-nin after you. What now then, Naruto-san? Well, I say we should leave now. How much longer do we have before we get there? If we leave now we should make it there by noon. Yosh. Let's go. Naruto went through another set of seals, activating another he learned from Jiraiya that allowed him to wipe a campground clean, not leaving even the slightest trace of anyone being there. Ren glanced over at the unconscious men and looked back at Naruto. What about Naruto-san? Let them sleep. We have to move out before the Kumo kunoichi brings back friends. I think I underestimated you too, Naruto-san. When I first saw you I thought you were just a baka. Yeah, I get that a lot. Now, let's go. As the two of them set out, Naruto could sense the faint trail of the kunoichi he had just met from Kumo and knew that she was somewhere near them. For that reason alone he kept his katana at his side. A memento handed down from his father to Jiraiya to give to him when he felt he was ready. The blade was named after the great typhoons that once dispersed out of a great threat to the 5 great nations known as the Kamikaze. It is said that this katana was one of the few artifacts that were blessed by the divine gods. These weapons had been sought after for ages, yet those who wield them never could bring out the true strength of the weapons. To their hands they were merely tools, and not the blessed weapons that they were said to be. Naruto's father, Minato, was among the first to learn that the key to awakening the latent powers of these artifacts were the dot. The Yondaime didn't understand why this was the key, but he knew that this would also aid his unborn son in his growth. Jiraiya didn't quite understand where he got such a powerful weapon from, but knew that if his greatest pupil wouldn't relinquish the facts to him, then there must have been more than a good reason for his sewed lips. The two of them finally set foot in Itsumi, just as the sun was at its highest peak in the sky. Naruto finally felt comfortable enough to resheath his kamikaze and mask it with his dot. Jiraiya had told him the importance of the blade and how he must keep it hidden at all costs. Naruto's stomach began to growl as soon as they reached the center of the city. Well, this is where we part, Naruto-san. Thank you for everything. Ren shook Naruto's hand as he handed him his reward for the escort. No problem, Ren. After you complete this, I highly recommend finding a new line of work. As if your work is any safer. Ren said as he smiled before walking off. Now where in this little town can I find a good bowl of ramen? Naruto began to sniff in the air, hoping his nose could lead him to the gold, and by the blessing of dumb luck, he managed to discover the one restaurant in town that actually sold hot miso ramen. With his pay for his work he could have all the bowls he wanted. As he sat down and began to order his food, he happened to catch a glance of another blonde in the shop, and at the same time she looked over at him. "Huh. You both?" Yugito and Naruto yelled at the same time as they both stood up and pointed at each other. "Excuse me, honored customers, could you please refrain from yelling? You are disturbing the other customers." The patron shot them a stern look. "Both shinobi said as they glared at each other. "Okay, I am just going to ignore her and enjoy my meal." was what Naruto taught until she sat down in front of him. What the hell are you doing? Sitting down, I can see that, but why the hell here? Because I want to. Naruto frowned as he pointed to his hit I-8. We're enemies, you know. Yeah, I know of the past between Kumo and Konoha, but now it is different. So, you're saying that Kumo and Konoha aren't having a cold war with one another right now? Naruto asked with sarcasm heavy in his tone. No, I mean between us. Us? Yeah, there's no reason for us to fight right now. Besides, I'm on a break, and judging by the fact that the OG-san you were protecting is no longer with you, it seems you are on a break too. No one said we had to hate each other every second of the day. I still don't trust you. And why? You did try to kill me last night. And you're saying you weren't trying to take my life? Naruto was going to say something, but paused as it escaped his mind. Besides, our elders hated each other, and I'm not a fan of the elders of Kumo. Bunch of stuck-up nonsenses that deserve to get with the times or die anyway. It seems we have one thing in common. See, but I still don't trust you. Fine, have it your way. Can't say I don't blame you, though. Suddenly a large explosion was heard, causing the entire restaurant to tremble. Something's happening at the dock. A man yelled from the outside. Naruto glared over at Yugito. What? Swear it has nothing to do with me. Naruto narrowed his eyes and glared at her even harder. Seriously, it doesn't. Arg. Naruto yelled as he got up and took off running for the deck. Shockingly, Yugito took off after him. Why are you following me? Hey. I'm just curious. Whatever. Naruto and Yugito both reached the dock at the same time to witness them being flooded by Iwanin. Wagakure? Yugito asked as she stepped up. What the hell is up with this guy's luck? He began to scan the port for any sign of Ren. Suddenly he saw him being chased by several Iwanin, which caused him to leap into action. The first thing he did was release the on his kamikaze and went through the same seals he had shown Yugito the previous night. She decided to sit this one out since it had nothing to do with her. Just as Ren was about to meet his death, he was saved by a massive gust of wind that sent all of the Iwanin flying into the ocean. Naruto-san. Naruto landed right in front of him with a large grin on his face. And you know it. Why are you here? Making sure my friend makes it to his boss safely. Arigato, Naruto-san. Naruto switched his katana to the side of the blade and began to slash in the air. Each slash launched violent waves of wind at his opponents, sending several of them crashing to the sea, with their blood leaking over them. More Iwanin seemed to have appeared from nowhere as they all rushed the blonde and his friend. Age Bushin no, Naruto yelled as about 12 clones appeared beside him, but he was the only one with the kamikaze. The reason for this was due to the fact that Naruto had yet to figure out how to recreate the mighty katana. Jiraiya believed it was all due to its rumored blessings from the gods. The 13 of them set off for a massive clash with the Iwanin. Suddenly one of the older ones stopped as the look of fear became evident in his eyes. Yellow flash. He yelled as he pointed at Naruto, making him smile inwardly. Ever since Jiraiya had told him of his father's feats, he would always enjoy hearing it from others just to confirm the truths. His sensei was known for his tall tales, so it made it hard to believe a lot of things that came from him. Impossible, he's supposed to be dead. Another of the Iwanin yelled. Naruto took their pause as a moment to send yet another wave of wind, wiping out several more. That is not the infamous yellow flash we all learned about. I am one of the fortunate ones to have survived his onslaught. Take care of the man and I'll take care of the wannabe. A stout-looking Iwanin said, who bore 2 large scars over his face. As if I'll allow you to do such a thing. Naruto yelled as he gripped the hilt of his blade even tighter. The Iwanin formed a large piece of rock and slung it at Naruto, who slashed it in half with ease. But Naruto had already fallen for the Iwanin traps as 2 of his clones formed from the rock and sent heavy side kicks to both sides of his chest, at the same time causing him to collapse to the ground. I don't know who you are, but I must admit that you do have an unmistakable resemblance to that demon of a man. Naruto smirked as he coughed up blood. I am his legacy. Nani? Before he could say any more, Naruto began to form a massive amount of swirling chakra in his free hand and punched it in Iwanin's gut. Rasengan. He yelled as he managed to shatter the Iwanin into pieces. Unbeknownst to the other Iwanin, clone after clone unleashed the same on them, giving the same treatment. That is one of his, but too bad that it was nowhere near as strong as his, or I would be dead by now. The man said as the rocks joined together and formed chains, locking both Naruto's legs and arms to the ground. The real Iwanin appeared in front of him with a large rock first and landed a painful blow to Naruto's face, shattering his jaw. If you really are his son, then I shall exact my revenge by killing you here and now. Meanwhile, Yugito was somewhere in hiding, watching everything as it unfolded. For some unknown reason to her, she felt more than compelled to intervene, but she also knew that this could lead to her own execution by the Raikage if she were to act against an ally in order to save an enemy. And Kami knows how much the Council of Kumo would love to kill her, thanks to the Nico that was sealed within her. Naruto. Ren yelled as he pulled out a katana adorned with a similar design as kamikaze, except with a scarlet hilt from his bag, and slashed through the rocks that had bound Naruto to the ground. "Ren?" Naruto asked as he glanced up at him. "We have to escape, Naruto-san." "Where the hell do you think you're going, young yellow flash?" the Iwanin demanded as he created a rock barrier in front of them. Apparently, despite his utmost pain, Naruto was able to remain calm enough to continue to control his clones, keeping Ren safe for the time being, but now things were looking more than grim for the two of them. "I'm done playing, kid." The wall suddenly shattered, forming many daggers made of rock and flying towards Naruto. Well, they were supposed to. Ren at the last moment had pushed Naruto out of the way and took the brunt of the attack. Before Naruto could even blink, his friend's blood was all over his face. "Ren?" Naruto howled as tears began to flow out of his eyes. "Ooh, now that we have that out of the way, finally I shall deal with you," the Iwanin said as he charged in to finish Naruto off himself. Suddenly, a random kunai punctured into his shoulder, causing him to shout out in agony. He glanced around and saw no one in sight. His pause was enough time to allow Naruto to lose his cool. The Kyuubi within him and the katana that was locked in Ren's hand were pulsating violently. An explosion of chakra erupted from Naruto as his canines began to extend along with his claws. His round cerulean pupils turned into crimson red slits. His whisker birthmarks grew wider as blood began to flow from them. Naruto's plain tears of water and salt were now tears of crimson red as the unbearable heat of his chakra began to melt away the ground below him. In the distance, Yugito's body was trembling from the demonic yokai. His chakra was given out. She had sensed something like this before, but nowhere near as strong, and that was from herself. "I knew that boy was different from the others. He has it in him just like me." "Which one, though?" Naruto sheathed his kamikaze and picked up the katana from his late friend's cold dead hands and gripped it in the similar motion he would hold his katana. With one quick swipe, a large wave of liquid fire flooded the deck, burning everything it touched, including all of the Iwanin. Naruto then glared at the sky, as if cursing the gods, and began to scream at the top of his lungs in anguish as the sorrow took hold of his body. Having taken its payment, the malicious chakra began to subside as Naruto collapsed to his knees, his original human-like traits returning. Once again, he looked over at his dead friend and wiped away more of his tears. He fixed his gaze at the katana he now held in his hands and frowned as he stood up. He decided that this katana too would act as a memento of his failure. He had failed to save a friend whom he had promised to protect. This katana would act as a permanent reminder of this day. Not wanting to set him off the handle again, Yugito decided that it was for the best that she left him alone. There was no telling how we would react if we saw her. She too was an enemy of him. Naruto quietly walked off the port and away from the town of Itsumi, as if nothing had happened, but the expression on his face was not one of celebration or excitement. It was actually void of all emotion as he made his silent walk back to the town his sensei was in. That night he set up camp just 3 hours outside of the village. He decided to take to the trees for a quicker way back. When Yugito walked up to him, he didn't say anything, he only looked at her. "You alright?" He narrowed his eyes for a second before glancing up at the sky. "I will be, though." "Here." Yugito handed him a new holster that was the type that was placed on the hip like a samurai, unlike his holster for his kamikaze, which was placed around his back. "What is this for?" "Your new katana. I saw you leave the city with it and I figured you would need one. Better than carrying it in your hand the whole time, you know. Why are you being so nice to me?" "To be honest, I don't even know why, but please take it, okay? Arigato." "No, don't thank me." "Are you sure you will be okay?" "Yeah, I will." "So, what are you going to name it?" "What?" "The katana. It seems to be as strong as your other one. You might as well give it a name. I know you gave the other one a name too, right? My first katana is called Kamikaze, and this will be called Kagakusai, due to my inability to protect someone who I promised to protect. Come on, Naruto, this is the cold world of the shinobi. You have to live by the rule of the world, which means that shit happens." "Yeah, I know. Cheer up, okay? Well, I have to head back to my village before they put a hit out on me." "That's important, huh?" Naruto said with a blank expression on his face. "No more like they are just looking for reasons to kill me." She smiled, hoping he would react, but he only continued to stare up at the sky. She leaned in and whispered in his ear. "I'm just like you, Naruto, I have it trapped inside me too." That seemed to snap Naruto out of his trance. "Nani?" he let out as he glanced up, but Yugito was nowhere to be found. It was almost as if she had vanished without a trace. Not even a chakra residue was left like normally when someone is off. He began to doubt if she was even there until he remembered the sheath holster she had just given him. It was real indeed. This event began to cause Naruto to rethink his entire 14 years of life. This was the beginning of one of the largest decisions he would make in his entire life. After that night, Naruto reluctantly made his way back to the town where Jiraiya was, having the time of his life. Naruto wasn't even in the mood to search for his sensei as he decided to just return to their hotel room. He was very exhausted from his travels and was looking forward to the comfort of the futon that was waiting for him. As soon as his head hit the mattress, he was deep in slumberland. When he woke up the next day, he had no clue how long he had been asleep, but he felt a slight bit of the burden he was carrying gone. He didn't know why this was, but he definitely wasn't going to complain about it. About time you woke up, kid, have fun on your trip. Jiraiya was sitting in a chair to the side of the bed, jotting down a couple of things on a pad. How long was I out? 3 days. 3 days, why didn't you wake me? I considered it an extended vacation. A perverted grin split across his face, causing Naruto to sigh. Naruto glanced to the corner of the room where he had placed his clothes and noticed that both of his katana were pulsating wildly. Wild enough that it caused Jiraiya to also glance over there as well. I've been meaning to ask you, but where did you get that katana? It seems to have its own chakra supply like Kamikaze. A memento from Ren. So, how was the man? Did you see him at the port? Naruto looked at him for a second, then back over to the corner. It seems to be like Kamikaze in many ways. I named it Kagakusai because it has a natural fire affinity. Jiraiya quickly noticed how Naruto evaded the question and quickly understood the entire situation. Deciding that if Naruto didn't want to talk about it, then he wasn't going to press the issue. He was surprised the kid wasn't as depressed as he thought he would be. Kakashi, think it could be another one of those artifacts. Positive. But if we go by what we already learned about these artifacts of the past, it should only react to you if you have a seal within you and your affinity matches it. Well, it works for me just like Kamikaze, but it's much more wild and violent. I literally created a wave of fire. Plus, how much do we really know about these artifacts? I never even heard of them until you gave me Kamikaze for my birthday. Jiraiya noticed how mature he was, acting about Ren's death, and also how intelligent he was, sounding for once. True, when did you grow up on me? Naruto gave him a questioning look. Nani? Nothing, vacation's over. Time to get some training in. Naruto rose out of his bed and began to head toward the bathroom. Even though Naruto didn't notice it, that was the beginning of his maturity phase setting in. Over the next year, Jiraiya and Naruto would continue their travels together while researching more information about the artifacts, Akatsuki, and the whereabouts of Orochimaru and Sasuke. In their free time, Jiraiya would further train Naruto in everything he knew. Unlike before, Naruto was soaking up all of the knowledge and learning at an alarming rate. Almost as quick as his father would when he was Jiraiya's student. Also during this time, Naruto began to take on a lot of solo jobs and isolate himself from Jiraiya more and more. It got to the point where he would leave Jiraiya for weeks with only the job details and his possible whereabouts if he needed to contact him. Naruto had learned that allowed him to summon small kitsune that would carry messages between him and Jiraiya when needed. Even though Jiraiya was a little worried about Naruto's well-being, he still figured it was all a part of puberty. He figured that most young teens would become rebellious and want to roam as far from the nest as possible, and he knew Naruto would be no different. Plus, he considered this as mental and terrain training for him. One of the greatest tools a shinobi should have is knowledge of his surroundings, and with Naruto constantly taking on solo missions, he would learn the territories of the many lands surrounding the Land of Fire. A couple of weeks after the one-year anniversary of his first solo mission to Itsumi Port, Naruto decided to take on a job that offered him twice as much than any mission he had done in the past year. Now 15, Naruto had more than a few tricks up his sleeve, plus the mastery of both Namikaze and Kagakusai when using them one at a time, giving him the confidence he needed to take on this job. He learned from past dealings that the higher the pay the more dangerous the job was, and he had a feeling that this one would be a hell of a task. The fact that he didn't get the entire details up front gave him that feeling. He would have to travel to Oka, a large valley city surrounded by mountains on every side. The journey would lead him deep into the land of Earth, which was the reason why Naruto decided to wear a large cloak covering him to hide his appearance. He looked too much like his father, and he didn't want any Iwanin attacking him while he was on this mission. The one accompanying him on his journey was a solemn old man whose job was to find a capable suitor for the job and to bring them to the city. As soon as they reached the canyon that looked over the city, the old man stopped and looked at Naruto. "What is it, Oji-san?" "This is as far as I will take you, Uzumaki-san." "What do you mean? How do you suppose I get down there, and where will I go once I get to the city?" "There will be men waiting for you in the city and they will contact you. I have sent them a description of your appearance. The way down there is for you to decide, Uzumaki-san. This is a part of the test my master set up to see if you truly are suitable to take this job." Naruto glared at the man for a second before sighing. "Fine, if this turns out to be some type of a trap, I will come back for your head, got it?" The old man remained expressionless as he turned his back to Naruto and began to walk off in the other direction. Naruto only frowned at the man for not taking his threat seriously. He probably thought he wasn't capable of doing either of the things. There is probably a route or slope I could go on to get down there, but I don't really have the patience to look for one. Oh, well. With that said, Naruto did something that the old man was not expecting. He literally leaped off the cliff head first. The old man was pretending to not pay attention to the blonde, and when he saw that the teen had jumped off, he rushed to the edge to see. Naruto's body was spiraling down like an arrow that was sent firing toward its target. Suddenly Naruto began to go through a few seals before pulling out a kunai and launching it toward the ground. Quicker than an average blink, Naruto had literally teleported from midair to the ground under his feet. The old man nearly fell off the cliff in disbelief. He definitely is suitable for this role. Naruto glanced around, making sure no one saw him before picking up the kunai and placing it in his side pouch. He glanced up just to see how high of a fall it would have been if he had messed up on one of the seals. I really didn't want to use that when I'm still no good at it, and especially in this place of all places. Uzamaki dono? Who needs to know? Naruto quickly placed his hand in his pouch, slightly gripping the handle of another kunai. No need to be alarmed, Uzumaki dono, our master is waiting for you. A man appeared with two others behind him. Naruto then remembered that the old man had told him that there would be people down there waiting for him. Did you see how I got down here? No, I didn't. Good. Nani? Don't worry about it. So, where are we heading? To the Capitol building in the center of the city, but the way we will be taking will be the underground route. Underground route? Hi, your client is the lord of the city, and it would lower his reputation greatly if the public saw he was hiring mercenaries for random jobs. I'm not. Hi, we already know you are a training shinobi, Uzumaki dono, but as long as you are taking random jobs without your village's consent for money, you will also be called a mercenary as well. The man interrupted. Good point, lead the way, Naruto said with a tinge of animosity in his voice and extended the last syllable, clearly asking for a name. There is no need to know our names, Uzumaki dono. Very well then. The three men led Naruto into a regular store and nodded to the store clerk, who nodded back as the four of them walked into the back room, where there was a hidden door on the floor that led them to the underground tunnels that traveled all below Oka. I see this would make for an excellent escape route in case something were to happen, Naruto said as the other three continued to ignore him. Naruto sighed out loud as he crossed his arms. Unbeknownst to them, he had a kunai in each hand ready for anything they would throw at him. Despite his attitude, Naruto was on high alert. His attitude was only meant to lure them into thinking that he wasn't expecting anything. The walk took about a good 10 minutes until they reached another stairway that led upward to another hidden room. Behind these doors waiting was his client, the person who would finally tell him what his mission entailed. Upon entering the room, he saw a very familiar blonde kunoichi who was literally gaping at the side of him. What are you doing here? The two yelled as they pointed at each other. So, this is the guy I was waiting for to be my partner. Partner, I work alone. Naruto yelled. Well, it seems you two know each other. That will make this mission that much easier for the two of you. The man who said this was sitting on some kind of throne wearing a white and gray robe. I said I work alone. Naruto yelled as he started to head back downstairs. Don't you dare talk to Yama Inu-sama that way. One of his servants yelled. I will increase your pay by half as much if you agree to work with Nai-san. Yama Inu smirked as Naruto stopped dead in his tracks. Deal? Nani? What about increasing my pay? Yugito argued. You have already failed once, you are lucky I am not canceling our contract. Yugito huffed, crossing her arms as she glared at Naruto, who only ignored her. So, what are the details? You and Nai-san will travel to the shrine within the forest of Yami and retrieve a weapon that was stolen from me. The shrine is heavily guarded, so do not take this job lightly, Uzumaki-san. Sure thing, so when do you want us to head out? Now if possible. Do you need any rest or anything, Uzumaki-san? No, I can leave now if needed. Very well then, I expect that the two of you should be more than enough to handle this job. Don't disappoint me now. A smile crept across his face that made Naruto feel uneasy. Don't I have a say in this? Not really, since my pay is higher than yours, meaning I'm in charge. Naruto said without even looking at her, which really sent her off, but she had no choice but to follow him. At least until they got outside. Yuno-san will escort you two to the outskirts of the forest where the rest will be up to you. Yuno bowed to Yama Inu as he motioned for the two of them to follow him back down the stairs. Once they got in the tunnels, Yugito began complaining once again. I can't believe this. You should have finished the job the first time, and then you wouldn't have had to see my face again. Eh? You think you're better than me now. How old are you? 16. I'm 15, which means I'm only a year younger, so please stop calling me a hell, I'm even taller than you. Yugito started to say something, but paused as she took notice of his figure. He indeed was taller than her. He had grown since they last met. He was now 6'1" and looked very manly to her. Not to mention that he was quite attractive with the way he was looking at her, which caused her to blush. Nani? She snapped out of her trance and shook her head. Nothing. He is quite handsome. Where is your team like last time? Naruto asked as he glanced at her. Team? Yeah, the guys who attacked me last time. Oh, them? They weren't my teammates. I was just hired by them to help them steal what the man was carrying, since they heard he had hired a bodyguard. Why were you alone on that? Why were you alone? Training. Sure, well, as I already told you before, the council would rather see me dead than alive, so they send me out on a lot of missions away from the village, and to keep a tab on me, they have an Anbu officer secretly trail me, just in case I don't do anything out of line like defect to another village. Why are you telling me this? Because I figured you could relate to me at all. You're the only person I know who shares the same burden yet has a brain of his own. You know another one? She glanced toward the wall, not wanting to look at him, hoping he would change the subject. Too late now, you started it, and it's not like I'm going to repeat all of this. We can make sure this guy here doesn't. They both turn and look at Yuno, who was walking in front of them. Whatever Kumagakure actually has too. The other one drives me up to the wall with his arrogance towards me, just because he has mastered his full potential, which is stronger than the one I have within me. He also has the backing of the village and is not a rogue like me. Those nonsense old men even had the audacity to try to make us like we were beasts. Of course, I didn't let that happen, which added another strike to my name in their eyes. The thoughts of Yugito mating caused Naruto to do something he normally wouldn't. He began to take a closer look at Yugito. What's wrong with you? Yugito asked, snapping Naruto out of his own trance as she realized he was staring at her face, causing her to blush again. Naruto also turned red as he quickly diverted his attention to the ceilings. At first, Yugito was upset about his perversion, but quickly felt flattered that he actually looked at her like a lady. Something that not many men did due to her having a seal within her, not to mention the fact she could kill them in a second. What about you? Yugito said, trying to change the tide. I can't be the only one spilling my guts here, partner. Still too embarrassed to look at her, Naruto looked ahead at Yuno as he began to speak. Why are they trying to be so friendly with me? We're still supposed to be enemies, you know. True, but we are partners now, so spill it, or I'll make you spill it. She threatened in a playful tone. Naruto sighed as he decided to tell her a little bit about his misery. Pictures for the first 13 birthdays of your life were actually the worst days of your life. Nani? My birthday was the very same day that the thing that was sealed within me attacked the village. On the day of my birth, both of my parents died, and every birthday after that except the last two I was attacked and nearly left for dead by the villagers. And I didn't have it that rough. It's okay, I got used to it and it made me stronger. That's something you shouldn't get used to, baka. Yugito yelled as she grabbed his hand, forcing him to look her in the eyes. The two of them paused for a second as they stared at each other, locked with a deep look. We're here. These stairs lead up to the forest of Yami. Yuno said, snapping the two of them out of their trance. Great, Naruto said as he was the first to come back to his senses and head up the stairs. Yugito soon followed after him. As soon as Naruto stepped foot on the surface, he noticed how dark it was. He didn't think they took that long to get to the forest, since when he arrived in the city it was still the morning. He turned around and glanced at Yugito and Yuno, who knew exactly what he was going to ask. This is why it is called the Forest of Yami. It is always nighttime here for some reason. Some believe it's thanks to a powerful force that one of the guards of the shrine cast. Yugito explained as she walked ahead of him. I see this is your second time coming through here, right? What happened the first time? Let's just say that I underestimated how dangerous this forest really is. Is that all? You will see once we go deeper. The two of them turned around and looked at Yuno as he bowed politely before heading back down the stairs and closed the hidden trapdoor behind him. Yugito was about to say something to Naruto when he closed his eyes. What are you doing? Suddenly 4 clones appeared in a puff of white smoke. Thanks to Jiraiya's rigorous training and Naruto's determination, he learned how to summon clones without using any seals nor words, which is commonly used as an additional focus. But he was only limited to summoning a few, unlike the massive amounts when he used seals. All 5 Narutos glanced at Yugito with the original smiling. Nani? Just watch. He pointed to the entrance to the forest, ordering the clones to dash into the forest in 4 different directions. They will act as our scouts. Do you know the exact location of the shrine? Yeah, but how will those clones help us? I learned a little trick that has helped me greatly. Whatever my clones do, when they disappear I will remember everything, more than help me for training and scouting missions. Why, aren't you full of surprises? She joked. You haven't seen anything yet. Now, please lead the way. A sarcastic smile crept across Yugito's face as she walked into the forest. The shrine is in the center of the forest. After walking around for about 20 minutes, Naruto decided that it would be better to try to get some information on their opponent from his partner. How skilled are the guards? I never made it that far. Suddenly one of Naruto's clones was taken out by something large. What the Naruto started to say, but several trees were pushed down, causing both him and Yugito to have to scramble away. Naruto shot a glance at Yugito, who only shrugged her shoulders. I told you I never made it to the shrine. Well, what the hell stopped you from making it? That thing. Yugito yelled as she pointed at a large cage that was lurking over them. Naruto quickly turned around and slung 2 shuriken at it, dodging its paw as it slammed against the forest floor. The shuriken bounced off the forehead of the shadow, forcing Naruto to rethink his strategy. Good job. I don't see you helping me. Naruto finally decided to release the hat that was hiding his 2 katana and unsheathed his kamikaze as he quickly flashed through a couple of seals. What are you planning? You know, a couple of fires, right? Yeah, why? On my command, I'm going to need you to use your strongest fire. The shadow swiped its paw at Naruto as he was talking to Yugito. He quickly leaped on top of the paw as it landed and did a backflip off of it and landed behind Yugito. The cage no began to charge toward them with its mouth wide open. What the hell are you doing? Use that now. Whatever. Yugito quickly began to run through several sets of seals before stopping on Katen. Karyu Enden. Her mouth gaped, a large ball of fire shot out from it in the form of a massive dragon, charging toward the cage no. I have already tried this, but you will just have to learn out the hard way. Haze Kageru. Naruto yelled as he violently swung his katana, creating a wind silhouette of a dragonfly. The wind actually combined with the fire dragon created by Yugito and nearly tripled in size, creating an all-new dragon shape as it literally engulfed the cage without destroying it instantly. Yugito couldn't believe what she was seeing with her own eyes. Told you, you haven't seen anything yet. Naruto said as he unsheathed his katana. Yeah, whatever. Yugito couldn't help but smile as she began to walk off, trying her best not to show it. But it wouldn't have worked if it wasn't for that powerful fire you used. Sweet talking me won't get you anywhere, you know. She shot back with a grin on her face. I'll see about that, he mumbled under his breath. It took the 2 of them another hour before they reached the shrine. It seemed that after they got rid of the cage no, everything else seemed to quiet down. 2 of the 3 clones landed on each side of the shrine and began to investigate the surroundings. Suddenly both clones were taken out quickly. Looks like we are not out of the woods yet, nah. Naruto said as he pulled out a special kunai and slung it against the wall of the shrine. What the hell are you doing now? Shut up and just hold on to me. Naruto ordered with a little bit of a commanding tone. Yugito started to talk back but decided to just listen to him. He was right before, so there was a chance that he could be right again. She began to blush furiously as she wrapped her arms around his waist. Even though she couldn't see it, Naruto was blushing as well. This better not be some kind of pervert fantasy you are trying to pull. Urusei, Naruto growled as he went through a few seals before the 2 of them teleported to the shrine wall. What the hell was that? My dad created it. Are you serious? That was crazy. Yeah, I know. It is hard as hell to do too. He could even do it with multiple kunai at the same time. I think I heard of something like this before, something about a yellow flash. That was my dad. You mean to tell me that your dad was the… Yeah. It seemed that over the years Naruto had grown to resent the comparisons between him and his father, unlike before. Omen, don't worry about it, nah. The 2 of them slowly crept through the entrance of the shrine with 2 kunai in each hand. Thanks to Naruto's clone, they already knew that the place was being guarded, but they didn't know where the guards had moved. As soon as they entered the shrine, they saw the item that Yamainu had hired them to obtain for him. The weapon turned out to be a scythe with diamonds swirling all the way around the staff. Well, it is pretty flashy. Yugito said as she stared at it. Hurry up and grab it so we can get the hell out of here. Yugito began to slowly walk toward the weapon when suddenly 2 hands grabbed her wrist from out of nowhere and slung her against the wall. Naruto threw both his kunai at the area of his hands. Both kunai landed right between both guards' eyes as they appeared, and both guards crashed to the ground. Naruto jogged towards Yugito and helped her up. You okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Nice throw. Suddenly the 2 guards rose back to their feet and pulled out the kunai that were lodged in their foreheads. What the hell? They should be dead, Naruto said as he pulled out 2 more kunai. Yugito quickly charged in and landed heavy blows to the first guard's chest, sending him crashing back to the floor. The male blonde landed another kunai into the second guard's face and landed 2 blows of his own to the chest of the guard. The 2 sun-kissed Jinchuriki leaped backwards as the 2 guards once again climbed back to their feet. Why won't they die? Yugito yelled as she began to go through a couple of seals before yelling Katen. Kazangansen Jinkatsu no Jutsu. Both Yugito's hands burst into flames as she charged toward the guards and unleashed a massive barrage of flaming punches upon the guards, literally setting them ablaze. But just like everything else they tried, it was to no avail. Screw it, just grab the scythe, I'll hold them off. Naruto yelled as he created another clone and began to engage the guards on his own. As Yugito reached for the scythe, the third guard almost stabbed her with a dagger if it wasn't for Naruto stepping in the way, that is. As soon as Naruto was stabbed, his other clone disappeared in a puff of smoke. Once again, Yugito couldn't believe what she was seeing. For a moment, the look of pain on his face froze her on the spot. The blow was fatal, she knew it. Naruto, run. Naruto said as he too disappeared in a puff of smoke. When did he? She thought out loud for a second before dashing off with the scythe out of the shrine, just to meet Naruto at the entrance with his Kakashi hand. What are you going to do now? He motioned her to quickly move to the side as he tightened his grip on the handle of the katana before yelling, Kaki Kajuru. As he swung it generated a massive wave of fire taking the shape of a dragonfly into the shrine. The velocity of the attack literally caused the shrine to explode, pushing both of them several yards back. Yugito quickly got up and grabbed Naruto by his neck. If you ever do that to me again I will kill you myself. She yelled, causing Naruto to chuckle a little. Sure thing, the trip back to the stairs was a lot quicker due to the fact that they were running all of the way back. They both knew that those immortal guards could still be chasing after them and they didn't want to take any chances. Because the secret trapdoor that led back to Yama Inu's office was locked from the inside, Yugito had to show him the way into the town. Luckily for them Yama Inu had his man waiting for them, which they were quickly spotted by him as they entered the city and escorted them back to the Yama Inu's office. Yama Inu was sitting there with a very pleased look on his face as they entered with the scythe in hand. He nodded toward his servant and quickly exited the room. I knew adding uzamaki-san to the job would get things done properly. Now I am more than happy that I offered you that raise. Arigato for the compliment, but I don't think I could have done it without Yugito. Eh? But you Naruto held up his hand, stopping her from talking. I also see that you two actually bonded a little. That's good, now would you hand me my weapon back Nai-san? Sure thing. Yugito nodded as she handed him the scythe. The slim man stood up and examined the blade before swinging it freely. Nice, but not nice enough. Come again? Naruto asked. This one is not the one I needed, but Uzumaki-san, he said as a demented grin crept on his face. Yeah, Naruto inquired about matching the same tone Yama Inu used. Suddenly, quicker than both of them could blink, Yama Inu was in Naruto's face already in swinging motion with the scythe. Yugito was barely quick enough to kick Naruto out of the way. What the hell are you doing? Yugito yelled as she pulled out a kunai and entered a defensive stance. What am I doing, you ask? Well, before he finished his sentence he appeared behind Yugito and kicked her in the back, sending her crashing onto the floor. You see, Uzumaki-san has two items that also belong to me as well, and I plan on taking them as well. Let me guess, the scythe wasn't originally yours anyway, and when you grabbed it, you learned that it didn't work for you. But how did you know about my katana? You guys remember my pet, right? Pet? Yugito asked as she stood up. The cage no Akami. That was you, Yugito yelled. I needed to test you two to see if you really could get the scythe, and I'm happy to say you guys passed with flying colors. And as an added bonus for me, I learned that Uzumaki-san just happened to carry not one artifact but two. I knew this was an excellent idea. Well, I have bad news for you, Yama Inu, these won't work for you either. There is a secret needed to unlock the power. Oh, really? Something like having a seal with you? Huh? Oh, don't try to play it dumb with me. I know both of you have a seal within you. Kyuubi and Nekomata. Yugito's eyes nearly popped out of her head. What sealed within you, Naruto? Yeah, what about it? Yubaka. Kyuubi no Yauko was the strongest of the 9. Your point? Indeed, but I also know both of you are still inexperienced with using the Bijuu's powers unlike me, who has already taken full control over mine. Nani? Both Naruto and Yugito said as they glared at him. I am Gobi no Haku. He yelled as his chakra began to flare out of control, as his human traits were beginning to be replaced by traits. Yama Inu's chakra began to push both Yugito and Naruto back against the wall. Yama Inu raised one hand and created a massive wave of wind that literally destroyed the office, pushing them into an auditorium. He has a wind affinity too? Naruto asked as he released the hat that was hiding his katana. He unsheathed Kagakusai and sent a wave of fire crashing towards Yama Inu. You wish it was only that. Yama Inu yelled as he created a large wall of water, negating Naruto's attack. Unlike all the others, Haku was the only one who had control over the 4 major elements. This was the 3rd strongest of all, and I will be more than strong enough to take you two out, since you can't even grasp the potential you hold. Well, I have everything maxed out. Naruto began to leap backwards with Kagakusai still in his hand. He began to glance around for Yugito, but she was nowhere in sight. He needed to find her so they could devise some sort of plan together, but when he found her, she was too far from him to say anything. Yugito had used her speed to get behind Yama Inu and tried to stab a kunai in his back, but he had already sensed her coming. He quickly backhanded her, sending her to the ground, and tried to slice her in half with the scythe. Naruto quickly appeared in between them using his katana to fend off Yama Inu's attack. The younger male pushed back on Yama Inu, causing him to tilt backwards, while Yugito took this time to drop and kick him to the ground. Naruto took advantage of his position and tried to stab him with his katana. But before he could land the final blow, Yama-Inu caused rocks to burst through the floor and collide with Naruto's body, sending him crashing into the other fair-haired ninja. That hurt. Yugito groaned as she pushed Naruto off of her. Yama-Inu leaped back on his feet and continued his attack. I figured I will just kill you two now before I have to deal with a powerful Nekomata, and not to mention that damn Kyuubi. I already have my hands full with Yamada no Orochi. Well, it's nice to know that you like us so much and all, but I don't plan on dying here today. Kaiten. Kazangansen Shintai no Jutsu. Yugito yelled as her entire body burst into flames and her speed nearly tripled. Now let's play, shall we? In the blink of an eye, she was in front of Yama-Inu, unloading a massive combo of punches and kicks that carried the added effects of fire with each blow. Each attack shook every fiber within Yama-Inu's body, but it still wasn't enough as Yama-Inu's body vanished in a puff of smoke. As soon as Yugito caught on to his original chakra signature, he was already behind her swinging his scythe. At the last second, Naruto leapt in front of the blow. Yugito was forced to watch as the blade of the scythe ripped into the flesh of her protector's chest, causing blood to splatter all over herself. Naruto, using the last of his strength, grabbed the scythe from Yama-Inu and pulled it away from him. Naruto, didn't I tell you if you did this to me again I would kill you, right? Yama-Inu tried to rip the scythe out of Naruto, but Yugito, still in her flaming state, landed a couple of real blows, sending him crashing against the ground. Yugito then cancelled her and grabbed Naruto. Naruto? This is a clone, right? He looked up at her with a smirk on his face. At first she started to believe that it really was, but her relief became terror when she saw his eyes glaze over with the same expression on his face. Naruto? Naruto. Good one down and a Nibi to go. Shut up. Yugito yelled as she felt the Nekomata's chakra take a hold of her. Just like Naruto and Yama-Inu, she began to take on her Bijuu's animalistic features. This might be fun after all to see you unleash all of your abilities and launch them at me. The problem is you still won't be enough to handle me. You are merely lower than me on the totem pole. Yama-Inu grinned as he stood up. But right before she lost herself to the power she felt the pulsating chakra of another unfamiliar source. She knew it wasn't Naruto or Yama-Inu, but it felt so close to her. She glanced down at the scythe and watched it pulsate uncontrollably as if it was demanding her to grab it. She picked up a scythe and gently began to pull it out of Naruto until she felt the weapon begin to draw power from her chakra and began to glow. Every fiber of her being wanted Naruto to return to her. It was with this sentiment that she felt a pull from the weapon. Not knowing what was going on, she decided to give in to the scythe's command and watched as Naruto's body also began to glow as well until life returned to his eyes. Nani, how long was I out? How could this be? I thought you were dead. Yugito said as she dropped to her knees and hugged the returning life out of the boy. It seems that this artifact is the artifact of death. Should have known that cursed Nekomata would come back to haunt me. Naruto weakly glanced over at Yama-Inu who was glaring at the two of them. You sound like you are the Gobi no Haku. Naruto said as he tried to move. Kyuubi had already begun to heal his wounds and he slowly felt his life return to him. That's because I am him. Unlike the Kyuubi and the Nekomata, I have full control over my. Yama-Inu said as his dog-like eyes began to glow with a grey aura. What do you know of the artifacts? Naruto asked. More than you apparently, but one word of advice for the two of you: don't go trying to revive every person that died on you. Uzumaki-san is a special case since the Kyuubi has the uncanny ability to keep him on the border between life and death much longer than anybody. Even though he was dead, with the help of the Kyuubi you were able to revive him, but I don't think it will work on everyone, and it may not work again in the future. Why are you telling us this? Yugito asked. You two have sparked my interest, so I decided to give you two gifts and a warning for you, Uzumaki-san. That was the first gift. Warning. The Nekomata in the past teamed up with me to kill the Kyuubi, but we both failed. The Nekomata could be hungry for revenge just like I am. What are you talking about? Yugito asked. You two may find out. What is the second gift? Naruto asked. Yama-Inu smirked as he began to fade away. Freedom for today, that is, and with that, Yama-Inu had completely disappeared from their sight. It wasn't for a few minutes until they felt safe once again. Naruto looked up at Yugito and smiled. Arigato. Yugito smiled back before punching him right in the face. What the hell was that for? He yelled, placing a hand on the sore spot. That was for dying on me. She smirked before pulling him closer to her and stealing his cheek. At first he tried to fight it off, flailing his arms, but he quickly gave in to her as he began to return the kiss on her cheek. And don't you ever leave me again. She bellowed as she pulled back, allowing a few tears to roll down her cheeks. Naruto didn't know what to say about all of this. This was the first time anyone had ever kissed him or showed this type of affection towards him. He was so used to having a one-sided relationship with Sakura that he never imagined that someone would ever have feelings for him. During that time he forgot all about everything that had plagued him in the past. He was already beginning to feel that everything he was doing was for someone else and not for himself. This was the first time he was going to put himself first. No longer was he going to miss everything around him just because he was too busy looking at what's in front of him. Don't worry, I won't. And just as he said that, Yugito seemed to remember the little problem of their two villages hating each other. Naruto somehow instantly deduced what she was thinking. Don't worry about that either, too. Jiraiya was finally returning from his latest adventure in perversion when he saw that the light was on in the hotel room that Naruto and he shared through the cracks of the door. He opened the door with a large grin on his face, obviously thinking the blonde was about the room. So how much did you make this time? Think you can lend me some for? Before Jiraiya finished his sentence, he stumbled across a dead body laying on the middle of the floor. As he took a closer look, he noticed that it was an Anbu office from Kumogakur, and to the side of him were two Hittite. One from Konoha and the other from Kumo. Jiraiya knew exactly what that meant and sighed out loud. Tsunade is going to kill me. In the Hokage tower, another blonde was having a major craving for a little bit of sake thanks to the amount of paperwork she had just finished going through. And thanks to the fact that her ever-diligent protege was not by her side like always. She decided that now would be the perfect time to get herself a drink. That is until she felt the obnoxious presence of one very annoying hentai excuse of a man. You're not getting any, she said after signing to herself. Oh, you don't have to be so mean, Tsunade Haim. You're back a year early. About that, did anything happen? Where's Naruto? You might want to take a couple of drinks before we begin talking about such trivial things. Her right eye only twitched as she gave Jiraiya a look that made him wish he was dead, a request that might have been answered when she found out about Naruto. Jiraiya took a seat in front of Tsunade on the other side of the desk and braced himself for anything she was going to throw at him, including the desk itself. I don't really know where this is. Nani? Did the Akatsuki catch him? How could you have let him out of your sight? Jiraiya quickly leapt up as she literally picked up the desk and started to throw it at him. Wait. I'm sure they haven't caught him and I'm positive that he is alive. He ran away with a shinobi from Kumogakur. She paused for a moment before deciding to throw the desk at him anyway. For some reason Jiraiya felt helpless as the desk collided with his unprotected head, sending him crashing into the wall. Several Anbu officers along with Shizune rushed into the office to see what all the loud commotion was about. Tsunade-sama. Is everything all? Jiraiya-sama? Shizune quickly rushed over to Jiraiya and began to heal his bloody head wound. What do you mean he left with the Kumo nin? If you knew this, then why in hell did you not go get him? I tried. Over the years he got pretty good at hiding his chakra and stealth. You'd be surprised how good he actually got over the 2 years. I don't care about that. Why in hell did you come back here without Naruto? Naruto's missing? Shizune asked as panic became evident on her face. I came back to request some help in the matter. I'm pretty sure Kakashi and his hounds could track down Naruto easily. So, I came back to get him as long as you allowed it. Kakashi was assigned to another mission already. When will he be back? He left 2 days ago and won't return till sometime next week. Which way did he go? I can still catch up with. Suddenly, they all heard a soft tap at the window of the Hokage office. All of them turned around as a golden kitsune leaped through the window, breaking the glass in the process. Shizune quickly pulled out several tiny kunai and was in the motion of launching them when the kitsune began to speak. I have a message from Naruto-sama. It is for Bachan, Hiro-senin, and Shizune-chan. It yipped in a high-pitched voice. I see he still hasn't matured much, Tsunade said as she rolled her eyes trying to quell her anger. The fox cleared its throat twice, much to the surprise of the spectators, and perfectly imitated Naruto's voice. Don't bother looking for me. It was my idea to leave in the first place. So, don't worry, I'm not captured or being forced to say this. I decided that my life would be better if I actually parted ways with Konoha for a little while. I may return or I may not, so I will not make any promises in this regard. The main reason why I am doing this is because I think it is about time I start thinking more about myself than others. I know this may sound selfish and all, but for the majority of my life, I have been either blamed for something that wasn't my fault or forced to live for others, just to prove to everyone of my existence as a capable shinobi, and not the Kyuubi no Yauko. I really wished I was there to tell you all this in person, but I'm sure you guys would literally force me to stay, Gomen Nasai. Oh, I almost forgot the most important thing. The kunoichi from Kumogakur is my companion, so don't get any ideas that she kidnapped me or something like that. Jana. What the hell is this? The blonde asked, eyeing the dark yellow creature, which in turn turned its gaze at her. This is one of the Gaki summons. He formed a contract with the Kyuubi to gain control over the demonic kitsune. Jiraiya said as he tried to think up his next move. Hey, where is Naruto now? Tell me. Tsunade demanded in a manner that sent a chill up the spine of every shinobi in the room, including Jiraiya. The kitsune only smirked, completely unaffected, before vanishing in a cloud of smoke. Damn Kitsune Jiraiya, I'm going to give you the details on the Kakashi mission. As soon as he is finished you two will begin the search for Naruto. When you find him, make sure you leave him alive so I can kill him myself. Tsunade reached into one of her file cabinets and pulled out a scroll and handed it to Jiraiya. Jiraiya only nodded before leaping out of the broken window. Sakura was walking about this time when she saw Jiraiya leap out of the Hokage office's window and quickly rushed up to the office. Ashushu-sama. Did Naruto come back early? Is he alright? Tsunade slightly glanced at Sakura from the corner of her eye before turning her back to her. Shizune walked up to Sakura and gently escorted her out of the office. If Naruto deserted the village, he might not come back, Shizune said with a sad look in her eyes. Nani? Even with the added help of Kakashi and his shinobi hounds, the two of them couldn't find even the smallest trace of Naruto and Yugito. Even if Naruto's skills in stealth had increased immensely, it still shouldn't have been enough to evade the hunt, according to Jiraiya. But the important factor that he didn't know about was Yugito's skills. She had been trained in these types of situations since she was young, which let them remain well hidden not only from Konoha, but all of the people who would have a reason to come after them. Even though Jiraiya and Kakashi didn't have any luck finding Naruto after searching for about 2 months, the overall search for Naruto began when the councils of both Konohagakure and Kumagakure caught wind of Naruto and Yugito's desertion. At first, the two villages cooperated with each other, using a very uncommon temporary peace treaty, until old blood began to boil as tempers began to rise, like everyone predicted. Over the years the tension between the two villages was similar to a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. In the 5th year of Naruto and Yugito's absence, the tension between the two villages was at an all-time high. War was evident, which would give Iwagakure a reason to attack as well, which would force Sunagakure to act. Things began to feel more and more like the 4th Shinobi War was around the nearest corner. For some unknown reason, over 10 camps in the outskirts of Konoha that were rumored to be bandit camps were raided over the past 2 weeks. There were no survivors recorded. Only the remnants of a scuffle and the smell of burned flesh were left. The Hokage normally would have ignored this incident if it wasn't for the fact that all of this was happening so close to home, not to mention the fact that the Kazekage was also visiting Konoha at this time, along with the upcoming chunin exams. Several shinobi were sent out to investigate the last campsite that was attacked. Konoha needed to know that these attacks pose no threat to Konoha and Suna. Taichu, are you sure this is the place? One of the Anbu officers said as he glanced around the campsite. Yeah, what's wrong? Taichu asked over the headset they were using to communicate. They had decided to split into 2 different groups, a scout group that was to head to the campground first and survey the land, while the secondary team's main job was to act as backup just in case there was an ambush waiting for them. There is nothing here. Everything looks BB backup. Kainu, come in. The Taichu paused for a second hoping there would be a reply, but static was the only thing that was heard after that. Everyone move out. The leader yelled as the entire squad quickly dashed onto the scene to see several of their own teammates on the ground. The first thing the Taichu did was check to see if they were still alive, while the other 3 were on lookout. Thankfully, all of them were still alive and only were unconscious, nothing life-threatening. I see your employer has finally decided to step up the game a little bit and hired some shinobi. A voice was heard over the far distance of the trees. All of the shinobi went into a defensive stance as the Taichu stood up. What are you talking about? Taichu asked. Silence only followed as the wind began to gently blow past them. Suddenly 2 of the shinobi dropped to the ground as they felt the heavy blow of a punch in their stomach. The Taichu felt something fly past her cheek. Quickly turning around to see what landed, she was surprised to see a dark blur appear in front of her before receiving similar treatment as the other 2. The last shinobi was locked in a state of confusion as he frantically searched his surroundings for the assailant. This was his first mission as an Anbu officer and he still was a little green under the ears. He felt a slight tense of chakra and quickly turned around but fell right into the Rouge's trap as he felt a kunai press against his neck. So which one of you is in charge? I am the Anbu captain, said as she slowly rose to her feet. She finally got a good look at what the rogue looked like. He was wearing a dark blue trench coat with black gloves and a black turban covering his head, leaving only his dull blue eyes in sight. Since I couldn't get anything out of those bandits earlier, I'm going to ask you this once. Why is Yama Inu sending his men this close to Konoha without showing himself? What has that been planned for? I don't know what you're talking about. That's not the answer I was looking for, the rogue said as he started to slit the shinobi's throat. Wait. We are Konoha shinobi. If you take the life of one of our ranks, you will ask Konoha to declare war on you. I have been on the run for years. Why would I care if a village who has already been after me declares war on me? How long have you been on the run? Would it be about 5 years? Something about those brilliant blue eyes of his called to her. Why are you asking this? Taichu pulled off her mask revealing her long pink dazzling hair and her emerald orbs. The rogue was clearly taken aback by this. You're Naruto, aren't you? Sakura asked as she stared at the rogue before he released the shinobi and unwrapped the turban that was covering his head, revealing a head of messy blonde hair, similar to the style of the yondaime. You are. Sakura yelled as she ran up to her former teammate and gave him a bone-crushing hug that almost killed him. As Naruto tried to break free of Sakura's grip, he noticed that her godly strength wasn't the only thing she acquired from the Bachan. Her bust size had increased nearly tenfold, leaving behind the days she was known as the flat chest of the Rookie 9. You're killing me, Sakura-chan, Naruto said as he fought for his breath. She released him from her death grip and smiled before landing a heavy right hook to his chin, sending him literally soaring into the air. He snapped out of the trance and slung a kunai down at her feet and teleported right beside her with a second kunai aimed at her neck. What the hell was that for? That was for leaving without saying goodbye, you baka. Sakura yelled as she tried to restrain the tears that were fighting to be released. Do you understand how worried I was? Omen, don't apologize for your stupidity, you baka. She yelled again as she glared at him. He stepped back a little bit before Sakura grabbed him once again in her death lock of a hug, this time shaking uncontrollable as the tears began to flow down her cheeks. How's Bachan? Is she still a Hokage? Sakura released Naruto and wiped her eyes. No, she stepped down about 2 years after you disappeared, appointing Kakashi as the Rakudame. Eh? Kakashi-sensei. Wow, a couple of people were disappointed that it wasn't you who took over the position, since Kashushu-sama was only holding it for you. Sakura said as Naruto held his head down, showing a little bit of his regret for making the decision that he made. He quickly smiled as his cerulean orbs literally lit up as he thought of something. And wait until you meet them. Them? My pride and joy. IV. The streets of Konohagakure were more than busy thanks to the return of the chunin exams, and not to mention the arrival of the Kazukiage from Sunagakure. Some people still had the bitter taste in their mouth from the last chunin exam, when both Sun and Oto launched a full-on attack killing many, including the Sandaime Hokage of Konoha. So not only were the streets busy with fresh faces, market stands and villagers, there were also Konoha shinobi on guard everywhere you went. Despite this though, the village still felt like it was about to throw the festival of the year. One tiny little girl with long blonde hair that reached to the back of her calves, sparkling blue and green eyes and wearing a dark blue dress, walked into Ichiraku's with a large grin on her face. She looked like she was about 4 or 5 years old, and it would have been the cutest thing you ever saw if you watched her try to climb up on one of the stools by herself. Aji-san. Yumahim wants one bowl of miso ramen, please. My, aren't you the cute one? Where are your parents? Am said with a large smile on her face. Yumahim's mama and papa are busy. She answered in a really cute voice. Tucci appeared by his daughter with a hot bowl of ramen and placed in on the bar with a pair of chopsticks. Be careful little one, it's hot. Yumahim will be fine. She said with a smile on her face before saying grace and digging it. Before Tucci could get back in the kitchen she was already finished. Oji-san. Yumahim wants one more. The young lad shouted. Tucci glanced at the little girl and couldn't help but think about one Uzumaki Naruto. She reminded him so much of the urchin-haired blonde that it made him miss his #1 customer. If you keep eating like that, you'll grow up to be fat. A teenage boy said as he finished off his own bowl of ramen. The ramen vendor's daughter sent him a slaying stare. No. Yumahim won't get fat. Yumahim's papa eat lot of ramen and he not fat. Maybe not in your eyes since you're still little. Yumahim's papa is strongest in the world. She yelled as she slammed money on the counter. Oh, don't worry about paying. These bowls were on me. Am said as she winked at the little girl. Arigato, Wani-chan. Yumahim said before she bowed politely and ran out of the shop. Am then shot the evilest glare at the teenager that caused his heart to stop for an instant. Why did you have to pick on her, Konohamaru? For that, you are paying for her 2 bowls. But Ni-chan, if you ever want to eat here again, then you better do as I said. She said as her glare intensified to impossible levels, leaving Konohamaru with only one solution. Shrieking. To say Konohamaru was a little upset about him having to pay the little Gaki's bill was an understatement. Of course, he didn't make it known until after he left the shop. Even though he had matured from his younger days, he still enjoyed playing pranks like his Ani-san, Naruto. So his new goal was to find that little girl and make her pay for emptying the last of his wallet. Out of the blue, it began to rain, and he futilely covered his head with the scarf he normally wore wrapped around his neck. Strange, it didn't look like it was going to rain at all today. After walking for a few more steps, he noticed that he was the only one getting wet. He stopped for a second and glanced around him to make sure he just wasn't seeing things. All of a sudden, he was splashed with a large amount of water, almost as if somebody had just poured a bucket's worth over his head. He turned around to see Yumi pointing and laughing hysterically as she was literally rolling on the ground, and now empty bucket flailing with her movements. Why you? Before he could finish his sentence, Yumi sent a gust of wind strong enough to knock him off his feet and onto his back before she took off running. Using his shinobi reflexes, he quickly bounced back on his feet and began to chase after her. The little girl saw two females that looked like kunoichi and ran behind the older one and latched onto her leg. "Save Orihime, Wani-chan?" she asked, acting as if she were terrified for her life. "Save?" the woman asked before looking up at a very pissed off Konohamaru. He was going to continue his pursuit until he took notice of just whom he was hiding behind. "Hinata-san and Hanabi-chan. Why are you teasing this little girl, Konohamaru-san?" Hinata said with a stern look on her face. "Huh? You got it all wrong, I wasn't, and I thought you were more mature than the childish baka you used to be. You're even trying to blame it on her." Hanabi scolded. "Appa. Papa." Yumi shouted as she rushed over to a tall man with long wild blonde hair, cerulean blue eyes, and strange but very attractive whisker birthmarks on his cheeks. "And then Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked as she glanced up at the very handsome man as he picked up his daughter. "PP Papa." Then the strongest person in the world she mentioned earlier was Ani-san. Konohamaru said as his skin went pale. Hanabi knew of her sister's huge crush on Naruto, which refused to go away even long after he left. She had tried dating others, but there was no one that could compare to her Naruto-kun. So, Hanabi glanced over at Hinata, trying to judge the reaction on her face to see if she needed to step in at any time. But to her surprise, what she saw was not despair or sadness but happiness. Her sister was genuinely happy to see that Naruto was alright. "Happy to see you again, Naruto-kun," Hinata said with a large smile on her face. "Arigato, Hinata-chan," Naruto replied, matching her smile. "Appa, Papa. What is Yumi-chan?" He was mean to Yumi. She pointed toward Konohamaru, who was hiding this whole time, hoping that she wouldn't do what she just did. "Oh, really?" He grinned darkly. His unofficial younger brother began sweating bullets. Quicker than they all could blink, Naruto was behind them with his free hand on top of Konohamaru's head. He then balled his hand into a fist and acted like he was going to punch him in the head before switching up into a pain dot. "Oh, next time you mess with my Yumi-chan, I'll kill you," Naruto said, a sadistic smile on his face causing Konohamaru to fear for his life. Naruto then looked up at Yumi and smiled genuinely. "Where's Mama?" "Up there." Yumi pointed to the top of a building where Yugito was, glaring at one of the kunoichi near the father-daughter pair. Naruto sighed out loud because he knew exactly what that meant. Yumi thinks Mama is mad. "Yeah, me too." Yugito leaped down and slowly walked up to them with a look that could kill. She was wearing a similar attire to Naruto. "When are we leaving?" Yugito asked, not to look at Naruto even once. Her eyes were dead set on Hinata, wanting her to do something. "Soon. There are still some people I need to see before we go." "Yumi don't want to leave yet, Mama." "Well, I do, Yumi-chan," Yugito said before Naruto wrapped his free arm around Yugito. "Come on, don't be that way, Yu-chan." Naruto gave Yugito such a puppy dog look, it almost made her give in. That was until Yumi joined in matching her father's look. Yugito couldn't help but to give in as a large smile made its way across her face. Fine, you guys are going to pay for using that on me again," she said as she turned her back to them. Naruto and Yumi both laughed. "Where are guys heading first?" Hinata asked, completely oblivious to the older blonde's intentions. "To see an old sensei of mine. I'm sure he'll be happy to see you." Yugito glared at Hinata as the three of them left, heading towards the Hokage tower. Yumi really likes them. The current cage of both Konoha and Suna were in the middle of a very serious meeting. War at any moment could break out, and the chunin exam could be used as an opening for Kumo and Iwa to attack, just like Orochimaru did over 7 years ago. Suna was also in a tight spot thanks to their shinobi count being at an all-time low. Despite the amount of effort both villages had put forth on rebuilding, both were still in a very weakened position. Unlike before, where the Yondaime turned the tide of the war single-handedly, there was no one on their side who could do this again. Even if the Kazekage was known for his power alone wasn't on par with the Yondaime of the past, nor was it enough to match the rumored powerhouses of Iwa and Kumo combined. Kakashi was almost to the point where he would cancel the exams due to these disadvantages. Even if it showed a major sign of weakness, Kakashi felt that this would grant both villages enough time to strengthen their defenses. Things were looking grim indeed for Konoha and Kumo. What of Akatsuki's movement? Ever since the disappearance of Naruto-san and the Jinchuriki from Kumo, all information on them has been completely silent. It seems that they have moved their plans towards something else, something just as deadly as that. We still have nothing on what it is, though. The Kazekage said. Something else. Kakashi asked. Apparently there is a rumor of some ancient artifacts that hold enough power to equal the maximum capability. And there may be one around this village and the genin that are coming here for the genin exams, maybe them in disguise coming after the one hidden here. How long has this been known? Long enough for you guys to only learn about it now. Naruto said as he appeared in the Hokage office, surprising both letters out of their skin at the sudden interruption. Naruto. Kakashi said as he stood up. Long time no see, Kakashi-sensei. You still call me sensei after all of these years? Force of habit. Naruto started with his patented smirk on his face. It has been a while, Naruto-san. The Kazekage said as he stood up and walked toward Naruto. Ara. When do you become the? A while ago. How have you been? He inquired, a ghost of a smile over his features. Well, I'm married with a daughter now. Both Gaara and Kakashi burst into a fit of laughter until Yugito and Yumi walked in, effectively shutting them up. Oh, this is my family. He informed them, lazily extending his hand in the direction of both females. The two Kage stopped and stared at them for a second, making sure this wasn't a trick. You're serious? Kakashi asked the trio. Naruto only nodded. Congratulations. Kakashi managed to compose himself enough to say that before taking a seat to try getting a better grasp of the situation. He never imagined that Naruto would ever mature enough to have a family. Why have you chosen now to show yourself since you and Yugito-san are in the bingo books of both Konoha, Iwa, and Kumo? Gaara asked suddenly, a stern look marred his face. Clearly he had mulled over the chance of the two eloping. How do you know my name? Yugito replied, clearly not expecting him to know her. Trust me, Yugito-san, I know more about you than you would like to know, though the fact that you were a mother is all news to me. Gaara said as Yugito glared at him. Right about now she was, finding it hard to trust a Kazekage. Despite Naruto's idea, she didn't really want to come into the village. She knew that things would be too dangerous if they were forced to fight while protecting Orihime at the same time. Naruto's only argument in regards to her feelings was that he knew some people he could trust Yumiham's life with if something did happen. We're only here to visit and then we will be leaving once again. Papa, Yumi-chan, he said in a finalizing tone. The little girl resigned. By the way, what were you two talking about before I rudely interrupted? Both Kage gave him a questioning look as Naruto smirked. They both instantly knew that he knew the contents of their conversion and began to wonder how long he was actually there before he said something. How much do you know about the artifacts of Naruto? Jiraiya already told me that you have two in your possession and there is reason to believe that your wife has one as well. Kakashi said in a serious tone. Naruto's smirk grew wider in a dangerous way as he stared at him. It all depends on how much you know about them yourself. The subject is very sensitive to my ears after all. So what you are saying is that we have to tell you what we know before you tell us. Gaara summarized with a cold expression on his face. Instantly the vibe in the room switched from a warm feeling to a very tense one. So tense that even Yumi could feel it as she hid behind her mother for protection. Why are you really here, Naruto? Kakashi asked as he stood up. Calm down, gentlemen, we do have my daughter here as well. Plus, you should really think about your own situation here. Right now, you don't know if I could be your ally or an enemy. It is not wise to make that decision for me in your position. The look on Naruto's face was enough to let them know that he was more than serious. You really have changed a lot, Naruto. The blonde just chuckled a little in response. Having a kid does that to you, maybe you should stop reading that perverted book series of yours and have a family as well. Well then, we should be departing now since I still have to meet another very important blonde who I know wants to kill me. Yugito picked Orihime as she walked out of the door. Naruto started to walk out as well but paused for a second. Oh, almost forgot, if you hear anything about an artifact nearby, it would be a very wise decision to ignore it. You never know what type of trouble you could get yourself in. Naruto said with a grin on his face before closing the door. The two were silent for a second before glancing at each other. Think it's wise to let him roam freely like this? Gaara asked. I don't think so, but these artifacts may be even more important than we originally thought they were if he was willing to bare his fangs at us. This might become a pain if we don't play a hand as well. I will have someone watch him. Gaara said looking hard at the closed door Naruto and his family had just used. Very well then, just as long as it doesn't put anyone from Konoha in danger in the process. I never knew Naruto to bluff, which means he could be stronger than us for all we know. But a true shinobi never shows his cards up front. He could have learned how to be an excellent card player over the years. Gaara finalized. Meanwhile, the Uzamaki family was making their way to the edge of Konoha where a lot of the wealthier families lived, including the Hyuga compound. Yumi was fast asleep in her mother's arms, tired from the excitement of the day. Earlier that day, Naruto had learned the location of Tsunade's new house from Sakura and was kind of dreading their visit. He was sure the woman who was like a mother to him would literally kill him. Besides a moody Yugito on her period, she was the only person he feared. Why did you threaten them like that? Yugito asked, breaking the silence. Didn't really threaten them, I just sort of let them know politely that this case wasn't something they should be sticking their nose in. Do you think Yama-inu will make a move during the exams? If not him, they will for sure. I still get an uneasy feeling when I think about them. I understand, but this is something we will have to deal with sooner or later, unless Konoha can stop them, and I doubt Konoha has it to do this thanks to the Cold War right now. I suppose. As they passed by the Hyuga compound, Naruto and Yugito sensed someone watching them, and he secretly created a cage bunshin, without causing his chakra to spike even a little. Only Yugito noticed it as she glanced over at Naruto. Who do you think it is? Probably a Hyuga, just making sure we don't evade the compound. Everyone does seem to be on edge here. I don't blame them though. Then why did you do that? You're not the only one who doesn't trust the village, you know. I am pretty sure the council knows about our arrival already. No, I'm asking why did you do that just now? Oh, I guess it just escaped my mind. Naruto said as he smiled and scratched the back of his head. Yugito only frowned as she bopped him on the top of his head. The three of them made it to Tsunade's house shortly after that and knocked on the door. Instead of seeing Amada Shizune opening the door, he saw Tsunade herself open the door and crossed her arms with a glare firmly fixed on the male fair-haired. Sakura and Shizune stood behind her with huge smiles on their faces, though Shizune's had a tinge of anger in her eyes, mainly from the main reasons her master had. How's it going, BB Botch?" and Naruto said in a nervous tone, raising a weary shaking hand as a salute. Tsunade balled her hand into a fist as he glared even harder as she suddenly charged toward Naruto. He was so terrified, he froze up while Yugito wisely moved out of the way. Instead of the beat up of a lifetime, he got a very firm embrace as his shoulder became very dampened with her tears. "Omanasai Botch," and Naruto said as he hugged her back. She rose up with a smile on her face as he wiped away her tears. She suddenly landed the hardest punch he had ever felt in his entire existence, sending him several meters into the air. Unlike earlier, the blow was so hard that his body did not respond as quickly, which resulted in him landing flat on his head. Baka. For a second even Yugito was afraid, and Yumehime woke up from the loud sound that Naruto made as he collided with the ground. Analyzing the current situation, she spoke. "Is Papa okay?" "He will be, maybe," she spoke, shooting a scared look at the Sannin, her mind seriously considering the idea of running for it. "That was for leaving me without a proper goodbye reason. Now, come in so I can heal you, and we can catch up on the last 5 years of your life," Tsunade said as she walked back into the house, leaving everybody watching literally speechless at her mood swings. The atmosphere in the room was unbelievably thick and tense. It almost felt like a conference meeting between two rival government leaders as they tried to settle their obvious differences. Yumehime seemed to be the only one oblivious to what was going on as she enjoyed a nice nap in her father's lap. Yugito was trying her hardest not to get up and leave as Naruto was literally sweating bullets. Even Sakura and Shizune were on edge, and they were the ones who had spent the most time with the woman. "So?" the buxom blonde asked impatiently. So Naruto tried to understand what she was asking. Tsunade narrowed her eyes in a distinct way that caused Naruto to instantly remember all the painful beatings he had received from her in the past. "What the hell were you thinking?" Tsunade yelled as her honey pupils were replaced with flames, making Naruto feel awfully sick. He decided that this was the best thing to do since not many people here appreciated how great he was. Yugito answered for him, leaving Naruto feeling even sicker. He was more than grateful to the fact that Yumehime was asleep right now and not awake to witness the person she considered the strongest in the universe squirm like a little worm. "I didn't ask you." Tsunade shot Yugito a look that sent everyone in the room chills up and down their spine. Everyone except Yugito and Yumehime for obvious reasons, of course. "You didn't need to, since he is my husband, I hold the right to answer any question that I have a part in." Yugito was obviously not going to back down an inch, which all three of the other adults thought was an amazing feat or an act of ignorance. "I see you kind of have a point there, but that answer isn't acceptable. Not to mention the fact that I still haven't approved of this marriage of yours. Naruto is now a new chunin and has a high bounty in the bingo book, yet this is the only excuse you can give me for this reason." Now everyone was surprised that she was being somewhat agreeable in this situation. Naruto began to realize just how similar those two were. Well, he always had a thing for overbearing and strong women. "I just needed to get away from everything," Naruto said, finally speaking up for himself. "What do you mean?" Sakura asked as she was under the impression the whole time that he had been forced or conned or coerced to abandon the village by the Kumo kunoichi, despite what she was told. The Naruto she knew wouldn't break him regardless of the situation or the circumstances. "I came to the realization that I wasn't living my life for myself. Everything, including my goal of becoming the Hokage, was based on appeasing others and proving them wrong. Even my quest to bring Sasuke back was not my own feelings, but Sakura's. I honestly felt that she would look at me in a different light if I were to bring Sasuke back for her. Sakura was kind of caught off guard by his answer, but was too speechless to say what she wanted to say. Traveling and training with Iro-sennin taught me a valuable lesson in life that I will never forget. My life is my own life to live, and I shouldn't live it for others just to make them happy, ignoring my own feelings. I made several friends over those years and almost lost them all. So you decided to run away from it all then? Tsunade asked in a loud, stern voice. The sheer volume in her voice woke Yumehime up from her sleep, which in the process woke up Naruto's hidden courage to face the ex-Hokage, like he used to do in the past when he was the annoying loud-mouthed. Of course, he couldn't look weak in front of his Yumi-chan. No, I didn't run away. I just chose another path to take. Naruto said as he stared at his surrogate mother straight in her eyes, not showing any sign of backing down. Both Shizune and Tsunade caught on to the source of his sudden outburst of courage and smiled to themselves. Then why didn't you visit us? You could have at least told us of your daughter's birth. Shizune asked, finally speaking. The time wasn't right. I now have a new situation that I am mixed in that is twice as dangerous as the threat of the Akatsuki or having a bounty on my head in the bingo book. We needed to make sure that Yumehime was old enough to travel before we returned to this village, not to mention it is now time for the chunin exams. What does the chunin exam have anything to do with this? Tsunade asked. What better time to sneak into the village than when the village is at its all-time busiest? He answered with a toothy grin on his face that reminded them of his younger self. You're lying. Tsunade once again narrowed her eyes on Naruto. Well, not completely. There might be someone here very dangerous searching for something in this village. This person is more than an enemy to Yugito-chan and me, and maybe more of a threat than Orochimaru. We plan on stopping him right here before he gets any stronger. Who is this person? We should let Kakashi know right away if he truly is a threat to the village. This is something that only we can take care of, Yugito said. Which brings us to the second reason why we are here. We need a huge favor from the two of you, and that is, we wished for you to watch over Yumi-chan while we were in the village. We don't know how dangerous things will get while he is here, and we need the reassurance that she will be okay no matter what. But Yumehime can fight too. Yumehime glared up at her dad. Yeah, but it's still too early for you, Yumi-chan. But Yumehime, Yugito said in a very firm tone that meant business, causing her to make an sound before burying her face into her father's cloak. You didn't have to be so firm with her. You just spoil her too much. Naruto sighed out loud as he returned his attention to the ex-Hokage. Tsunade leaned back in her seat and pulled out a bottle of sake she was hiding under it. Shizune glared at her but let it go due to the situation. On one condition, you have to tell me what is going on. What are you so involved in that is more dangerous than Akatsuki or Orochimaru could be? Naruto sighed out loud as he leaned back against the couch before he looked over at Yugito. It seemed the two of them were communicating with their eyes before Yugito leaned forward and started speaking. To start things off, Naruto isn't the only one who was born with a grave burden. She paused for a second, allowing the news to sink in. There are artifacts in this world that are said to be as old as time, and they only seem to react to the yokai of a. Just one of these artifacts holds enough power to wipe out a village twice the size of this one if placed in the wrong hands. Naruto has two and I have one right now, but there is no telling how many of them are out there. There is a rumor that one of these artifacts is somewhere in this village, and our enemy just happened to be like us, one of the stronger ones, and he has a lot of political influence, which makes it hard to get close to him. So, we have reason to believe that he will make an appearance here as well. How did you get a hold of something so dangerous, Naruto? Tsunade asked. One of them was a gift from my father. Father? Did you find your parents? Both Tsunade and Shizune look at Sakura for a second, forgetting that she didn't know anything about Naruto's parents, thanks to the Sandame's law. Not really, since they both died on the day I was born. Jiraiya knew my father and gave it to me when he felt I was mature enough to handle it. Of course this was before we knew what it actually was. Naruto decided to just leave it at that, since he didn't feel like talking too much about his late parents. Tsunade sensed this and quickly changed the subject. So why are you taking this responsibility on your shoulders? Because we both know how strong he is now, and if we allow others to take care of this and fail, it would be too late for us to do anything about it. Plus the annoying fact that he knows we have 3 in our possession, so it would only be a matter of time before he came after us anyway, since he wants them all. The room was silent for a moment until Yumehime yawned out loud, snapping everyone out of their serious trance. Okay then, we will take care of your daughter while you two deal with things, but you will have to visit us every now and then, after you leave the village, despite who is trying to kill you, or I will hunt you and kill you personally. Tsunade threatened with a smirk on her face, to which Naruto swallowed hard. At night, the sky was clear, giving anyone who was interested a lucid view of the stars. A cool, gentle breeze blew as the blades of grass began to dance, transforming the plain into an ocean of green. Suddenly, the sounds of footsteps were heard, followed by several more. The first set of footsteps stopped right in the center of the field as their owner turned around and watched as more men appeared behind him with all sorts of weapons in their possession. "Are you sure you want to do this?" the owner of the original footsteps asked as he placed his left hand on top of the hilt of his katana, which was resting in its sheath. "We will never forgive you for what you did to our lord. Even if it means that your lives will be forfeit in the process." The man glared at his pursuers with such intensity that his eyes became visible even under the dark veil of the night that covered the field. Another breeze blew past them as everyone became silent. As soon as the wind stopped blowing, a batch of clouds flew in front of the moon, shrouding the field in complete darkness as 3 of the 10 men dashed toward him. He lightly stepped forward, easily dodging the first attack, and landed a powerful blow to the second man's chest, causing him to land on his back. In the same motion, he sent a side kick to the third attacker, lifting him off the ground with the brute force of the kick. Quicker than the first man could even breathe, he slashed through his neck with his katana as he quickly placed it back in the sheath. Blood began to float along with the wind as the 9 remaining men looked on in horror. None of them even saw or heard him draw his katana, but they all heard him resheath it. Just as quickly as the clouds came in, they dispersed, allowing the light of the moon to shine brightly on the scene. One of the men now laid sprawl out as his blood continued to leak out like a broken faucet. "Now, do you really wish to continue this pointless fight?" It was obvious that he merely allowed them to hear him sheath his katana to show them just who they were fighting. The same thought went through every one of their minds as they braced themselves for anything. He was clearly on a completely different planet when it came to ability. But they couldn't let that stop them. This man had just killed their lord and was announcing himself as the new lord of the land. There was no way in hell they were going to allow this to happen, even if the people didn't know of their bravery and quest for justice. The other 2 men dusted themselves off and pulled out a katana of their own. An annoyed expression grew on his face as he closed his eyes. In an instant, the once clear and beautiful night sky was covered in clouds once again as the sky began to bellow with thunder, as if it were angry. He forcefully opened his eyes, causing all of them to be frozen in their spot as they all were sliced in several different places under a few seconds. The clouds began to burst as it started to pour down on him as the rain showered away all the excess blood that was covering his body. "How pointless you enjoy watching your men kill themselves. Who said those were my men? They were just pawns that helped me achieve a much greater purpose. I was just going to let this go, but your abilities have sparked an interest in me. Not to mention that katana you wield that wouldn't happen to be kusanagi, now wouldn't it? And I never would have fathomed the idea of finding an artifact this far out. Maybe it was a good thing that I helped that old nonsense keep this land alive for so long after all." Another cloud covered the moon, cutting off all light sources. Lightning suddenly struck, revealing the stranger standing right in front of him with a smirk on his face. "You are a strange one, huh? You are not even yet it seems you can wield this artifact. But how much of that was you and how much of that was the katana?" He gently rested his hand on his hilt like before, causing the stranger's grin to grow even wider. "Yes, I will have to find out up close and personal, eh?" As soon as the cloud that was covering the moon was gone, the stranger disappeared. He quickly drew his katana just in time to deflect the attack of a metal staff type of weapon. But the source of the weapon wasn't anywhere to be found. He quickly swiped his katana to the left, deflecting the second attack that appeared out of nowhere. "Very good." Suddenly, the stranger leaped up from the ground and almost landed a high kick to his chin, but at the last minute, he leaned backwards, allowing the tip of the stranger's foot to only graze it. The impact was still enough to launch him into the air, where the stranger landed a powerful attack with his staff right in his abdomen, causing him to spit out blood as he landed on his back. But he quickly hopped back on his feet, ready to counter as his katana collided with the man's metal staff. The stranger used his own attack against his opponent as he thrust forward, landing another hit against his chest, pushing him backwards. The man then slammed the staff against the ground and created a shockwave to stream toward him. His dark almond pupils shifted to a crimson red as 3 times formed in the corner of his eyes. At the same instant he swung his katana at the ground, sending a violent amount of chakra into it, negating the man's attack. Interesting. I see that you can use the kusanagi properly, and I also never imagined that I would get to face off one of your kind, since you all died out several years ago. About time you get serious, Icha. As lightning struck the sky, the man launched the staff at him, but he quickly knocked the staff to the side with his katana. What he wasn't expecting was a second staff to collide with chest again as he slid backwards. That was when he saw for the first time that a chakra chain connected both staffs to one another. So you finally saw it, huh? Guess those eyes are as deadly as the rumors say, eh? Let's see just how this artifact can fare up against that kusanagi of yours. The stranger pulled back on the chain, causing both parts of the staff to fly back to him as they connected with one another, joining in their complete form. The Uchiha took this time to get even closer by using his immense speed. The stranger was caught off guard a little bit by just how fast he was, but it still wasn't enough as a giant wall of wind burst between them, sending the Uchiha flying backwards once again. The stranger leaped over the wall and slammed the tip of his staff in the ground, just barely missing the Uchiha, thanks to a quick roll on his part. But that was what the stranger was expecting. Suddenly, the Uchiha felt a large amount of chakra pulsate from the staff as the ground around it was set on fire. The stranger leaped down on the ground and swung the staff sideways, creating a massive amount of wind that sent the flames running in all directions, scorching everything they touched. The Uchiha was forced to quickly backpedal to avoid the flames, but he also backpedaled right into the stranger's trap as he ran right into a tunnel of wind that began to rip his entire body. That is if it was the real him. At the last second, his body puffed in a cloud of dark smoke, causing the stranger to chuckle. As the fires continued to run rampant through the fields, the stranger just stood there like a statue as his bleach-white cloak flapped wildly in the wind. He suddenly thrust his staff forward, catching the Uchiha right before he attacked and followed up by separating his staff again and grabbing the left part and slamming it hard against the Uchiha's face, sending him crashing to the ground. I have to say I am kind of disappointed in your capability, and I was hoping that I could use you in the future, but you turn out to be just another pawn. Who said I would work for you anyway? Also, who said I was even here? The Uchiha's body began to dissolve into a pit of snakes as they began to leap at the stranger. He sent several blades of wind shredding right through the snakes even before they got close. So you were holding back? He combined his staff again and turned his back to the fire as he began to slowly but calmly walk off. We should continue this sometime when we both aren't holding back. It would be wise for you to come to Konohagakure if you value your life. After I succeed there I will return here to kill you and take Kusanagi unless you provide some unneeded interference. He slung a kunai to a nearby tree before the stranger's body began to dissolve into tiny particles. Those transformed into a grey wolf as it began to run off in the direction of the village. The Uchiha reached up, grabbed the kunai that missed his skull only by a few inches, and glared at it with his crimson orbs. Who the hell was that? Can you follow his chakra, Karen? Vaguely he's quite skilled at hiding his chakra. I'm even getting confused on whether or not it is a real chakra trail or not. Throughout your entire fight with him, his chakra kept changing in a very abnormal way. She paused for a second as she watched him stared out in the distance. Konoha again, huh? He said as his eyes returned to normal. More importantly, are you alright, Sasu-kun? Yeah, I am. I was just caught a little off guard. Do you know what he was talking about when he mentioned artifacts? Not exactly. There has been a strange rumor about powerful weapons resurfacing from the past though. Why? Sasuke looked down at his katana that he had inherited from the later Orochimaru before returning it to its sheath. Where are Jugo and Sujetsu right now? They are both back in town, waiting for us to return. Okay. Get some rest tonight. Why, what's wrong? We are leaving earlier in the morning. Where to? Konoha, of course. 3. The summer sun blazed over the chunin hopefuls as over 25 teams of genin stood in front of the gates of the Forest of Death. Even though this was probably the most dangerous part of the exam, most of them were more worried about dying from the heat or the instructor who was in charge of this event. It seemed that Anko's favorite dango shop had been shut down temporarily due to some foreign genin vandalizing the place last night. The shop owner didn't know who exactly did it, but he did know that they were wearing a foreign 8. It took Kakashi everything he had to keep Anko from going on a killing spree on all of the genin in the village. Listen up, Chibi. If you were hoping that this test would be as easy as the last one, then I'll kill you myself. The amount of killer intent she was releasing left more than the majority of them frozen in their tracks. You have exactly 3 days and nights to collect the other scroll with the one in your possession and arrive at the tower in the middle of the forest. It is against the rules to open any of the scrolls before reaching the tower. Who disobeyed will be forced to undergo excruciating consequences. She forced Kakashi to cave into her idea when it came to the punishment for breaking the rules during the test, which were to allow her to do whatever she wanted, besides kill them. It was obvious to everyone that she was out for blood. I see Anko-sensei is a little bit crazier than normal. Don't you think so? A Konoha genin wearing all blue with his 8 tied around her shoulder and a blue rag tied to the other arm in the same spot. Really? It is hard for me to tell half the time. Aoi-chan, her teammate, who was draped in the standard shinobi attire except for the 4 kunai that were hanging off the side of his 8 that he wore around his head, said as he glared up at the sky wishing he wasn't there. Not because he was scared, but because he just didn't feel like doing anything. Ryu sort of has a point there. I've been afraid of Anko-sensei since she began to help out Ino-sensei with our training. A timid kunoichi, who was wearing a dark red shinobi skirt with black biker shorts underneath and a dark red sleeves jacket with her 8 on head, said as she walked up to Aoi. You're just imagining things, Suzuka. Anko-sensei is really cool, and I can tell that something is wrong with her right now. Both of Aoi's teammates gave her a strange look. What? You mean besides how she normally is? During this time, Naruto and Yugito were hiding in the forest close to the entrance, watching for something that felt out of place, which was hard to do thanks to all the weirdos that were from the other villages. I see Anko hasn't changed any. Anko? The instructor who is currently threatening the genin. Oh, that aura she's giving off right now is even giving me the chills. Yeah, she does that to people. Heh. Suddenly there was a loud shout before all the gates were opened, allowing the genin to dash into the forest, oblivious to what lay in wait for them there.